Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sandy Glaze. I'm a personal transformation and self-development coach, and I'm back today with Desiree Holmes Scherini. She's been away visiting for a little while and on vacation, and it's a joy to have her back. How are you doing, Desiree?
I'm doing good. Yeah, vacation was good. And the funny thing about coming back is all that stuff that I had to do that I left here is still here. I'm just not sure. I'm like, wait, why is it still here? But I'm
Isn't
doing
that the
good.
way? Yeah, for sure. So do you know some interesting things have happened when you were gone? People were sending me links and talking about different things that are happening that maybe wouldn't be in my purview or my what I would be looking at. And one of them was Taylor Swift. She did a video. She was doing a concert. I think it was called MetLife. It was in May. And what people said, she performed a song. I think it was called Lavender, which I looked at her lavender and I'm thinking ultraviolet is what I'm thinking because that's a different type of light. And they said that they felt they were hypnotized, that she couldn't remember. They couldn't remember. A large part of her audience could not remember certain parts of the show. So
Huh.
this got me thinking about what we were talking about are you brainwashed and different brainwashing techniques. I think that might have been the last time that you and I talked, or the
Yeah,
time before that, right? And I
right.
just wanted to extend on that because what I've been doing is looking into a little more of the nuances. So you're trained in various modalities, which I want to come in and have you just briefly talk about those. But what I'm noticing is all of these things are doing the same thing. People are using the word, they're hypnotizing us. It's the programming, it's
Uh-huh.
cultural programming or religious programming. And what I did was I started looking up a few different words. You know, what's the difference between a trance and NLP? And when I looked up definition of trance, I did not know there was trance radio, trance music,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
trance mixes. And it's interesting because I was at a conference, I think back in 2017. I won't say the name of the group, but on a Saturday night, I think it was a 3-day conference. On the Saturday night, they had entertainment and they had a harpist playing, and then they were playing dance music. And I had left the area. People were really pushing up front to dance, which I thought was odd because these are not all young people, right? Anyway, so I left to go to use the washroom, and when I came back into the area, the courtyard, I could hear the and I
Yeah.
knew it was trying to suck people in. So I stayed at the back. I didn't go near it, but I thought that was a one-off. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
So can you share a bit about hypnosis and NLP and what you know about trance and how it works? Um, okay, and then I'll explain the other reason why I'm curious.
Okay. Well, for me, the way I use and my understanding of NLP, which I am certified in, I usually with NLP focus on some of the techniques, but a lot of the words. So NLP itself, in my training anyway, doesn't doesn't use trance, doesn't uh, use hypnosis. However, hypnosis uses NLP. Okay, so
Okay.
NLP is has these. It's quite a variety of different things within the umbrella of neurolinguistic programming, but there is a programming. But the neurolinguistic part is about thought, words, thinking more than brainwave change. Okay. Um, and there's also actually there are a lot of techniques in it that involve an energy kind of a breaking up, like some tapping stuff and some, things to get over fears and phobias. And the person is not really in hypnotic trance; they're focused. Without going into all that, now hypnosis, however, goes into the space of the brainwave, and that's where you're going to get trance, or that's trance music can get you there. All sorts of things can get you to that trance state. So it's the brainwaves. The we always have brainwaves going on. That's a good sign. Unless you're dead, then you have no. It's like
Right.
right. No brain activity. So our brain waves go anywhere from delta up to gamma, and there's probably more. They are discovering different levels. In general, we operate around a beta or alpha state in our everyday working, right? Right now, I would say on beta. Beta has its range of hyper beta, just had a car accident, what am I gonna do? To, low beta, I'm having a conversation, I'm comfortable, and this is all copacetic. Alpha goes from being relaxed, kind of chilling, like having a cup of tea or coffee, down to low alpha, where you're kind of maybe really absorbed in a book, and like you don't even notice somebody ringing the doorbell, or you're watching a movie and you're really, that's the beginning of trance, like really getting in there. Then down to theta, and theta is generally the area of hypnosis, where your brain waves are at the verge of sleeping, right? Half awake, half asleep, really zoned out. Okay. So it's hyper focused, you're in instead of out, right? So hyper focused inside. And so when you say trance, there's different ways of getting there. Eye movement, and you think of, that typical, like, watch sound, binaural beats. A lot of people, use a binaural beat, you put on headphones, and one tone goes in here, another tone goes in there, and in between it creates the brain wave that frequency that you are desiring to happen. So different binaural beats will get you someplace. Now to trance music. Sorry. Some things, not necessarily just sound, but pattern, right? And actually beats, binaural beats, are rapid beats, rapid sound patterns. But it's so if you think of trance music, boom, 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 and then sometimes they have an overlying one that's a more rapid, and your brain will start going, oh, and assimilate. It'll what's the right word? Not assimilate, but and train. Okay. So your brain will entrain to this frequency, which could be this music beat, right? And that's when you start talking about the Taylor Swift concert. So it puts you in an altered state. It can put you in an altered state. Just about everything can put you in an altered state, from everyday walk and talk. But
and there was that Travis Scott video, concert. What was that, last year, where you walked into the Medusa skull was the entrance, and I think it was down in Texas, and you could actually see the black things flying in as they. So my understanding is that that swarm of black would be demonics, whether synthetic or not, whether attaching to a certain oxide or something. I don't quite know, but that's when people started just dropping like flies. So we've heard a few different concerts where that is happening, right?
There was one like in Korea or something, wasn't there, where people just dropped?
Well, they said they were stampeding toward the door. Now we all know that some information is real, some is not, some is miss, dis, non, whatever. I still try to use my discernment. So when I hear those things, so they were showing people laying down on the sidewalk and they were doing CPR. Well, if you look at the one, they were doing CPR on the thighs, which means the heart was still alive, so they couldn't do it on the heart. So was that just another one of those false flags? Like, they're looking for crisis actors for everything. So I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I don't know. All I knew was when I was watching the people performing the CPR on the sidewalk, it wasn't chest compressions, it was leg compressions. So
yeah,
so we take everything with a grain of salt, right? So with the trance music, what frequency or hertz would it be played at? Because when you're speaking of the binaural beats, my understanding is the binaural beats each have something to do. Some can cleanse the aura. Some are 528, the DNA repair and the unconditional love. 741 clears negative energies, but it'll feel good to you or it won't. And it doesn't mean every one of those recordings of binaural beats are meant for us particular. So, but you might like one and I like a different one, and both of us are right. But what frequency does the trance music play at? Because when I was listening to that, I was just, no way am I going near that stage again.
Well, you can imagine, though, say if you wanted to go into meditation, that you would choose to go, like sometimes that would help. You think of Tibetan chants, for example. You know, and it's that repetition. And I don't know. I don't know trance music per se,
Right.
as to what the frequency is. But the theta waves, you know, what is the theta wave frequency? Theta wave frequency is 3.5 to 7.5 hertz. It is classed as slow activity.
So the Schumann was 7.83, so it's really close to resonating with the earth frequency, or slower.
Yeah, or actually more closer together. Yeah. And so the Schumann is around the same, or because delta comes after theta, delta is sleep. So Schumann is deep theta, or high delta, that real deep trance state would match that. So, you know, and different brain, you know, different frequencies will encourage different responses. So just like, say you go into a nightclub and that is higher, and it, you know, I can't really dissect it that well, but it gets the body responding in a certain way. Just like you relax to the slower ones, the faster ones, you get more kinetic. Your body,
you're not in control from your mind. Your
yeah,
body's in control from the music.
right. Yeah, it's sort of like you're plugged in.
Yes.
You know, it's sort of like you've plugged into that. And there's a story about entrainment that I guess I should know this because it was in one of my talks, but there was I feel silly not knowing the person who did this, but he had two grandfather clocks and put them beside each other. And, you know, the pendulums were like, you know, they weren't in sync. He wakes up the next morning and they're in sync just from being beside each other.
Yes.
That there is that propensity for frequencies, for things to synchronize. And an example of women that work together every day seem to have their menstrual cycles start to match up
over time. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, that's, you know, a couple examples of entrainment. Entrainment is a real thing. It happens. And using sound, using eye movement, you know, using all sorts of things can lead the brain wave into a certain, you know, possibly, as if the person knows what they're doing, desired state of being.
You know, it's interesting. I was listening to a master dowser yesterday, and I was listening to her presentation, and just what you got me thinking about with the grandfather clocks. And one of her comments was, all energy is conscious. And when you're describing those two grandfather clocks, that they decide to sync up, that happens. I can see that. The other thing we were talking, and I've mentioned this before, is the observer collapses to quantum wave function. So when you're watching something like if you're observing something, you can make that energy change and shift. So where I'm going with this, I'm just kind of curious as to how you stay out of the mass hypnosis that's being put on us through the music industry, through the TV programs, the movies, what have you, right? Because one of the things I was thinking about was like, how do you break free from it? But the other thing is Alexis. I have a neighbor who has Alexis, and I can't remember. I was over at her house recently, and all of a sudden she says Alexis, and she asks the question. And I'm like, you know, she just heard, because we're doing a session. I said, do you know that just recorded everything you just said to me? Like, I didn't know she had it. And she didn't say anything that would be used against her or anything along that line. So then I decided to ask Alexis a question. And I said, what is the human level of consciousness in the United States? And you know what Alexis told me? The average person needs 8 hours of sleep. And she went into consciousness to being the awake state. And I thought they've even controlled the information with Alexis that keeps us in a lowered state of consciousness, because basically they're giving us the 3D information that the masses. So it's just one more form of mind control. So that's where a lot of this, where I wanted to go with this today, was about the mind control and how do we stay out of that state? Because I was just reading as well. Where did I put this? So the NLP. So you said it uses techniques for matching words, but the other thing that it said, I was looking up NLP techniques and they came up with anchoring, and I don't want to go into all of these. I didn't realize they existed. Pattern
Yeah.
interruption, loop break, swish, framing, modeling, outcome frame, formatting, outcome. But then as I went further down reading about it, what it said was if you're a purist, NLP has no technique to offer you. And do you think I can find a definition of a purist? What is a purist? Is that somebody who's true to their heart and can't be?
No, I think what it's saying is around NLP. Some people say NLP is not really a thing. Some people say, oh, it doesn't yet. They're NLP deniers. But the thing is that NLP is an amalgam of multiple, like you just, multiple techniques that these, two men that, put all these things together and called it NLP. It wasn't, it's not, it was a created therapeutic. Okay. It was created therapeutically. It's like, well, let's put that under the umbrella of NLP too. Oh, that we can put that in here too, or we can put. It's basically you can put anything in there, and say, well, that's NLP. So when they say purist, it means if you're looking for something that is straightforward, that they all tie together, like it's a one thing. Like hypnosis, it has its variations, but generally it's all about changing the brain wave and to achieve an outcome. Okay, going into trance. All hypnosis ends up being basically having someone in trance. But NLP, like when you talk about anchors or swish technique, or they are more thought shifts. And the words too. I love the NLP for changing words, the use of words, and I use that under hypnosis. So I might say, if somebody says, "Oh, life sucks," I say, "Well, instead of life sucks, you can reframe that. Reframing, right? Reframing is like, can you say the same thing and be honest to your feelings by using different words, like." Up until now, things have not gone the way I hoped, or it hasn't worked out yet. Do you see? It's like, oh, and it changes the way you feel, and
Yes,
it gives you more positive forward movement.
so from what you were saying, this is just what I'm going to ask is kind of what came to mind for me about the term purist. So if you're a purist, and I'll use an example that you believe the Bible or your religious book is the only way to follow, NLP won't work for you because you have a train of thought already that you're not going to alter from. Would be the example of a purist?
No, I think
purist is the wrong word.
Yeah, well, they're saying if you're a purist, as far as here's what I think they're saying. If you're a purist when it comes to how you use any particular modality. So, for example, tarot cards. If you're a tarot purist, you're only going to go by the Rider-Waite. If you're a Rider-Waite purist, only the Rider-Waite book means anything. Only the definitions in that book mean something. Any other book, any other cards, that you would dismiss them. So I think that's a better example.
So basically one track mind is basically what it is.
Yes.
I think I got a hornet in here. That's not good.
Oh. Hello, hornet. Just go rest in the corner. Time to sit down and just watch the world go by.
So I want to talk about the intention.
You need to pause and come back.
Yeah, I'm going to just get it. So if you want to talk about the intention of the person, because what you just described out of all those modalities, if your intention is not pure and you mean to do harm to somebody, I don't care if they call it NLP, it can all be used for good or bad. Can you talk a bit about that? And I'll be right back.
I will be talking while she and the hornet make peace with each other. If I hear you scream, I'll know that maybe he wasn't ready to be peaceful. Yes, so just like anything, and I think we've talked about it here, the idea of having a tool. Tools can be used for good or for harm. Tools can be used to help or for selfish reasons. So, for example, you say you have a hammer. You can use a hammer to build a house, to, do all sorts of great things. Hammers are a good tool. Unfortunately, some people might use a hammer to whack somebody with. So it's the same tool, but the intention and the way that you use the tool is completely, you know, different. And what seems to happen sometimes when somebody gets some knowledge, some power, some tools, they might even go in with positive intention at the beginning of using it or knowing it or getting involved in something. But then this weird little, like, I picture it like Lord of the Rings, it's like the ring, that a sense of like, they go to the dark side, literally, and might use it for wrong, for power, for selfish reasons. So yes, a tool is not bad, and well, we could get into, a lot of people have that conversation around a certain tool that people use to harm others, and try to blame it on the tool instead of on the perpetrator using the tool in the wrong way. So a tool's not the problem. The I would say if someone does something wrong with it, it's the person, the intention, the evil behind the person who's using the tool.
And
And
that's,
yes, yeah,
I really
that's
wanted to stress that, and I really wanted to hear, because I don't sense anything evil in you, and I believe people who are coming to you, they would be getting a service that's to help them either remove something or to get them closer to whatever their goal was, right? So I do understand that with
it's
you.
a powerful, powerful tool. And and this is why I love using it to help people.
Yes. And I focus on dosing a fair bit, which means you learn to turn your own body and read your own body to bring it on. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just part of the coaching, because I think we're all waking up to be able to start seeing how some of these modalities work, and we can almost self-train, like train ourselves to be able to change the way we think, or we release something from the past, or what
Yes.
have you, right? So why I was asking about this, the word hypnosis has been coming up with different interviews I'm watching, different people, and it's coming up a lot. And they're talking about the hypnotic state we're in through the radio, again, with the trance music, through the programming, through the TVs, through social conditioning, whether it's the news trying to get us to believe certain things. And I was listening to this one woman, she's in Australia, and she was part of the SRA and part of the cult, what do you call that, the abuse and things like that in her family. And she'd made a comment, and I think I sent you that interview. I
Yeah.
hope you're not hearing my phone. She said in the interview that at one point after her father hurt her, he would do something and make her forget. Well, I'm thinking about all the people who were hurt as children and don't remember 10 or 20 years later, if
Mhm.
that technique, something could have been used on them. And there's another incident with the young girl that I had met here, and she was telling me her father was doing things to her, and I'm not going to go into the ugliness of what he was doing. And she goes, I can't remember. And I said, why can't you remember? She goes, they're brainwashing me. This little girl was smart as a whip.
Yeah.
And when I went in and read her, I go, they're not brainwashing you. I go, they're hypnotizing you. And I go, do they put something in front of your face? And she goes, yes, it goes like this. So after abuse, they're hypnotizing her so she cannot remember what's happening. And then what that got me thinking, is there any way that people can use hand signals? So we're not stating this for anybody to take any information that Desiree or I am sharing to use it for nefarious reasons. That's not what
Yes.
this is about. We don't accept that. We don't.
I don't think those people are watching our show, so that's
I don't think so either, but we're just stating this, that this is
yeah.
not what this is about. But is there any way they can use hand signals? And what I'm thinking of is training dogs. People will use hand signals to
Mhm.
get dogs, like to get dogs to do what have you. Is it possible to do that to humans with hypnosis techniques or NLP techniques or what have you, that people might not even understand that they're being hypnotized?
Yeah, and I listened to that. I watched the interview you were talking about that you sent, and so part of it, I'm going to kind of go to a beginning of that answer rather than
Okay.
straight to that answer. Part of what I think can help, and especially with children. First off, the younger you are, usually the more susceptible you are to, any of these suggestions, right? Any manipulation. So especially a child of a parent, that person is around, and even if they've harmed you, there's a certain level of trust that you have based just because this is this person. And even this woman was talking about it. I mean, she's had a lifetime with her her abusive father, and still had, family relationships and all this stuff, even knowing what had, it was just normal.
But that was her siblings, was it not? Her relations were more with her siblings, is what I took out of that, not
She even talked
necessarily.
about up to the age of college, and he wanted her to do this, and she didn't want to do that. So even at the age of college, she was still discussing with him and then saying, yeah, I went along with it, but then I dropped out. So she was even still, controlled by him and playing along or whatever to just get by. So there's a level at a child to trust someone. So part of hypnosis working is there has to be some level of trust. Most hypnosis, generally, unless it's a manipulative under the, like, we'll get to that, is voluntary. People choose to say, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go along with this, even if they don't know it's hypnosis. So there's a trust. So whatever the father must have done, or in these cases, is you can initiate certain things that will become that trigger, or that even a post-hypnotic suggestion, like a hand signal, a look, a piece of jewelry. And we've all even maybe seen movies where somebody is looking at someone and they just hold up and they show the ring,
Okay.
they do something like that. And then the person, like, just gets quiet. That could be like an accepted signal between the two. It could be some sort of programming. And especially, like I say, with a child. So now talk about mass hypnosis, or things that could be happening. Repetition, repetition, repetition,
Okay.
repetition. And we've seen examples of this in the media. There's that one
Totally.
clip. Yeah, there's, the repeat,
Totally.
no matter what channel you're on, repeat, 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 and the word for word even. And so the more that you hear something, the more your brain goes, well, that's true. That's true. That's true. And we've talked about critical thinking and looking things up for yourself, and having discernment, but the brain wants to entrain. The brain wants to entrain. Your brain's nature is to go with the flow, right?
What's wrong with my brain, because it does not go with the flow.
Well, and that's why, like I was saying, we've talked about this one in a few shows ago, that about like 1/3 of the population, or maybe less, I think it might be getting to be less, has this critical mind that is not susceptible. 1/3 is very susceptible. 1/3 is like, go with the flow. I just want to go with the flow. 1/3 is like, hang on there, this doesn't feel right. And I think that might be the third that just has a stronger intuition. And they're more connected to, rational thinking, rather than being just like picked up with the water flow, and being, running off the cliff with the rest of the sheep, or whatever you might call it. But they're less likely. So there are just groups. There are groups. So say, and we, that whole idea about mob mentality, right?
Right.
That energy, and you know all about energy. That energy is a frequency, and it, even unseen, it can entrain. People talk about the full moon. Now, we were kind of getting off of hypnosis a little bit here, but there's an energy and
Yes.
force that does affect our thinking, our brains, our reactions, our moods. So that, combined with, say, sound, visuals, and remember how they used to do this in advertising. I think it's illegal now, but who's to prove it's not still being done, right? Remember during commercials that they used to have this flash, subliminal.
Oh, I'm sure they still do it.
Yeah. So it used to be, for example, it was okay to have like a woman, like you see a woman in a sexy bikini, walking on the beach or something, and maybe a subliminal flash of what they want you to buy would be put there, right?
Yes.
And you wouldn't consciously recognize it, but all of a sudden you'd have this association.
Yes,
Like
that you want to
say,
buy it.
yeah, and you'd think, oh, maybe it's a cologne, oh, this cologne and that woman. You see the cologne, you think of the cologne, and next thing you know, you subconsciously associate it with being beautiful or getting a beautiful woman or whatever it is, right? So that's how it works. The subliminal input, and we get that from media. We get it from schools now, and we used to get it from schools, right? Yeah, and even the people doing it may not be aware that they're part of the program.
And that is part of the problem. So I'm glad you're mentioning that, because that is part of the problem. Because if they are keeping the programming that is not in humanity's best interest in play, they are part of the problem. And they, like some people would say, even in Nuremberg, they deserve to go up and be dealt with as everybody else. And so this is interesting because those are the people who, we just had a pastor up here in Canada that was arrested again for protesting a certain story hour. And all of these cops drag him off, and they've got him on the cement, on the asphalt. And sooner or later, we have to start asking these cops, is what you're doing illegal? So I just did with Sarah and Adriana, and I did a video, and we looked up the Red Cross website and all the behaviors that they're teaching in the curriculum and all the things they're doing in that show. They're illegal based on Red Cross, but are these police now breaking the law? And what's going to happen when they decriminalize that act? Are they going to let their kids be called up and be hurt? Like, so there's a lot of people are going along, but it's almost like they're in a program and they haven't really thought it through.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So they've got the brawn. What are you going to do about it, right? But people are starting to speak up, and I've actually spoken up with a few people, and they just stopped and looked at me, and their eyes got big, and I'm like, okay, you get it. So we have to change the programming, and it's not necessarily with shock factor, but it's with the truth. So Tim Ballard is bringing out a movie, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
And I think it's coming out July 4th. So I think there's a
Yes,
lot of people.
Fourth weekend.
Is it? Yeah. So there's a lot of people really pushing to promote all this stuff, so that when all of the truth does come out, that most people consider it normal. But it's not normal. But when you say that people are the problem, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter if it's the food supply. It doesn't matter if it's entertainment. It doesn't matter if it's enforcement. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're in. If you're going along with this, you are the one who maybe has been NLP'd or hypnotized, that you are deserving, or trance
program, or either through fear, either through like fear of losing your job, or being ostracized by the loud
And I don't really, I don't have any empathy for the people who are afraid of losing their job, because losing their job, they have to destroy somebody else's life to keep their job. That's basically the savagery in our society that we're experiencing right now. You get to go in and say, this is not acceptable. You go to jail. This is not acceptable. You have to have this procedure. This is not acceptable. This is the consequence if you interfere with something that you have every right to interfere with. So this is all part of the problem, right? So I have another question. I went into, as I'm looking up all this stuff, right, for our show today, I looked up NLP again, and something else came up, and it came up as natural language programming.
No, it's neurolinguistic.
Okay, so this one came up as, so I want to share this. Give me a second here. I'm going to pull this one up. Oh, tell me I didn't take it down. So what it was called was natural linguistic programming, and basically it's associated with AI. So as I'm looking at all of this, and I'm looking at the use of language, so that's what it came up as, natural language programming. So I know what you're saying with NLP, and there's quite a few, sometimes different organizations use similar acronyms.
Yeah, it might be the acronym that they're using too.
So, but they're saying that they do the natural programming, and as part of the AI, so that the computer can recognize the human and what the human is feeling. And I'm sitting here going, this is all part of the same play on words almost, or manipulation. So there's a lot going on, even with the technology, and when the use of the language, which is our original technology, that's our ability to communicate with ourselves and with others. But it's just interesting how it's the mind control seems to be what is really, they're trying to control the mind with these different words. Do you have any suggestions at all about how people cannot fall for that?
again, I'm sorry, I just like swallowed your hornet or something.
He left on his own.
Yes, and part of it is like doing what you're doing. Look it up. Look up and read about manipulation techniques, group management, even group control patterns. What is group hypnosis? If you understand what it is, then you can be aware of when it's happening instead of just going with the flow. You can say, oh, do I want to go with this flow or not? Let me stop. You know, one of the things I've probably brought up in our conversations before is political speech, for example. You know, public speakers, I don't do it very well myself. I say too many ahs and uhs, and I talk too fast. However, if I were to go into the appropriate public speaking voice, say if I were to run for Congress, I would switch my voice. I would meter my words. I would be much more manipulative in my choice of words. I would speak more slowly, and I would have a pattern that's almost like that trance music, because I would choose 3 words. I would have these patterns of words that are, what's the right word?
Designed to console you is what I'm getting
Well,
from one.
it's a hypnotic voice.
Yes.
Yeah, I would.
So without going into exactly what is happening, but people are in front of your Congress and they're testifying. And they're starting to laugh because they're all saying, we can't comment because it's in court right now. And they're laughing. But the lies are, the lies roll off the tongue and they answer without answering. And they're all starting to, like the people who are overseeing these committees are starting to see this. They're answering without answering. But so my question is, where did they all learn to do that? Where did they all learn to lie, but just so casually that it comes off their tongue? And it's just, they answer the question, but they don't answer the question.
If you're talking about the 3-letter agencies, that's part of your training.
Yeah.
So
that makes you wonder, even though they're in different aspects of industry, if they aren't all from that training.
Yeah, especially the ones doing the talking. And about that, the way of speaking to a group to engage and persuade, it's called, that's the word, persuasive speaking. You all look up persuasive speaking. On the one hand, you'll know when someone's using it with you. On the other hand, gotta say, if you're a salesman, it comes in very handy. NLP is one of the things that salespeople will really understand. Persuasive speaking, using words to encourage and get someone to do something. Okay, that's like, if someone's a salesperson, NLP is definitely one of the courses that you would take.
Would you take it, or would you be a natural and have it already in your system that you know how to manipulate, or could it be a bit of both?
Good natural salesmen already have a lot of these techniques. But if you're going into sales and you really don't have experience or haven't had success, NLP will help you be a good salesman. Okay. And so that is being true. But Obama, for example, I always use him as a really good example of a persuasive speaker.
Yes,
he's got the good voice, he's got the good tone, and the
inflection. Yes, he knows when to speak, when to pause.
Yeah, and on the other hand, I probably said this on one of the other, Bernie Sanders, no. You know, he's angry and he's dying of it's like, oh, you know, but people liked him for what he had to say, not because of his persuasive.
How he said it.
Yeah. Some people can say gibberty jash. And if, you know, like reading the, what was that really cool poem about, that made no sense? The Jabberwocky.
Okay.
They could stand up and read the Jabberwocky in just the right tone, and you would vote for them. Yeah. Yes, I love him. What he said. And you're like, what did he say? I don't know what he said. I can't repeat it, but he said it so well.
So pay attention to what is being said.
Yeah. What are the words, not just the voice? And of course, obviously in politics, you know, this should go without saying. Look at the track record and look at the behavior. Is it matching?
Yeah.
You know, is it matching what they've said before, how they actually behave? And okay, interpersonal relationships, right? Oh, you know, I love you. Of course I love you. Why would you think I don't? You're, you know, you're imagining things, okay? Or angry, and then the person shuts up, right? So, okay, yeah, you're right, it's me. So watching, you know, matching the words with the behavior.
Totally. The walk and the talk.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
also the whole idea about trance is that trance voice. And as a hypnotist, we are taught the trance voice is part of training. And I don't talk like this when I'm putting someone under hypnosis. They'd never go under. I'd be like, I'm dead, but you know, it would be,
I agree.
now just close your eyes and take a nice deep breath. That's
So it's like a
right.
meditation when you're preparing to go in, whether you're doing it on your own or through a guided meditation.
Yeah.
It's the same as bring your attention inward, right?
Yeah, it just feels so good to let go, doesn't it? And again, those words, doesn't it? You know, and either now or in a few moments, you're going to find that you can't keep your eyes open. You know, you just tell them. You just tell them this is the truth. Oh, yeah, you're right. I can't keep my eyes open. You know, and if you're using a pendulum or something and you see this and your eyes are getting so tired, so very tired. And so you see the difference, obviously, when I'm having a conversation with you,
Totally.
what I would do if you're going to go down now.
Yes. And it's really important that we understand that too, because so many different modalities are surfacing that will help a person shape their perception, shape what they want, how they feel about maybe how they would go about achieving a goal. So a lot of these are coming out with the new energy modalities as consciousness is waking up. We're learning more. Again, this woman I saw yesterday, she had done a graph and she had shown all the different theta waves, delta, beta, alpha, and then she showed a Dowser's wave, because Dowser's is about connecting to the energy of all that is, and it was
Are
a
they up there
totally
at gamma?
different wave.
Are they at that super high one? You know, gamma is like that deep, 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 like Tibetan meditation stage where they've measured these guys that really are gone. And it was very surprising because it's faster. It's like the fastest, you know, as opposed you would think it would be the deepest and slowest. It's not below sleep. It's like way up there, super brain activity. Kind of
I'm gonna look
interesting.
and see what the wave pattern is for the gamma wave and see if it's like that. But the Dowser energy is connecting that we know everything is energy and we are all connected on some level. So it's about being able to project your consciousness almost into what it is that you either want to know. And I like the fact she's talking about going into the future and the past. I've cleared emotions out of people's future before, which I thought was weird. And he understood why. So he understood why, because they're going to make me do things again. But it was really interesting just being reinforced, because we all speak languages our own way. Like we use our words differently, convey our messages differently. But it was really interesting listening to her talk about going into the future and the past. But with consciousness, it's always about, with dowsing, it's always about permission. May I, can I, should I? And I'm sure you have certain protocols that you would follow us like along that. And I know you do a lot of intuitive work as well, but it was just interesting. And she said she worked with a lot of ghosts. And she said, so she helps the ghosts pass over. She said sometimes they don't realize, maybe they were in an accident, don't realize
Yeah,
they're
they
dead
don't
yet.
know yet. They're like,
And
what happened?
right. So she said she was working in this area and she was clearing out the ghosts. And whoever the person was working with her said, congratulations, you got all the ghosts out of here, but they're all along the fence, because she didn't know how to help them get to where they needed to be. So there's different aspects of this, right? But it's just I really like and appreciate you being able to explain a lot of this for us today, because there are people, as we're waking up, who will try different strategies to get us to not wake up. And like those concerts, mass hypnosis or NLP or what have you. But when you think singing, in the lyrics of singing, how powerful that is as a hypnotic state or a message, as a transmitter of a message. And again, you know, going into hexes, vexes, spells, curses, all those kind of things. But as our mentalism is tying in, I'm seeing that we're seeing different attempts to control the awakening process happening. That's what I'm seeing. So that's why I wanted to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And get your take on this, because a lot of what they're describing with the NLP and those different like reframing, most modalities have that in one way or another. It doesn't matter what it is, access bars, psychology, energy psychology, it doesn't matter what it is, hypnosis. So we're talking a lot of the same things.
Sure. Yeah.
In a lot of these.
Well, because usually the goal, however it is, the goal is usually somewhere in the same little bubble of better thoughts, better feeling, healthier, happier, better relationships. You know, usually the goal, and so there's all these different roads that lead to these goals, but they're usually, you know, if you can't change the way you're thinking about something, you can't change the energy around those thoughts, right? So there's this energy of like bringing in positive energy, and our thoughts, as we know, we've looked at that chart, you know, that has the frequency of love down to fear, down to guilt, right? And yeah, that one, right? So if you go in all those emotions, any way to those feelings, those thoughts that bring on those emotions, any way of moving those energetically with thought change, with exercise, with, you know, even consumables, like, you know, some people use psychedelics to get past some things. It's all, and of course hypnosis, duh. They all of them, if the goal is to rise up on that frequency chart, and to, yeah, overall, just, if, you know, one thing feeds to another. And as an example, yes, that thing right there, consciousness-based healing.
And to point out here as well, so yes, your goal, I agree with you 100%. You want to be up to love and above, which is halfway up the consciousness scale. There's quite a few different states of consciousness below that, but it's okay to feel every one of those.
Yeah.
But the idea is you do it from a position of learning. And I was working with a woman yesterday, and guilt came up a fair bit. And then she started realizing some of the guilt wasn't hers, it was put upon her. So it's okay to look at it and say, is this really yours or somebody else's? So you can look at it as information, and that's a great way to get you back up here sooner when you realize it's not yours.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of carrying it, some people stay in guilt, or stay in anger, stay, you know, and it's like saying, okay, and here's a reframing, right? I use this a lot for myself and for clients. What do I have to learn from this? How can I, you know, find the lesson in this, and then release it and get back up?
Yes.
You know, there must be a lesson. This is how, if I don't like it, let's reframe this. I don't like this, instead of like, poor me, I hate this, I'm a victim. Yeah, you need to feel that and say, okay, now I don't like this. How do I choose to, that handsome boy.
He wants to say hi again.
Hi, baby. How do I choose to look at this differently so that I can have a better experience of living?
Right. And it's okay to recognize if you've been victimized, because sometimes you have. But part of being breaking that pattern is recognizing how it happened, who's responsible for what. And it doesn't mean you're responsible for half of it or anything. But the idea is that you recognize the situation for what it was, so that you can release the hold on you. Right. Yeah. So forgiveness, all kinds of things. Look at this guy. You say hi. I'm dog sitting for a couple days, so he just wanted to say hi. He's done really well sitting here for the last hour and a bit.
Hi, Booker.
You gonna say hi, buddy? You gonna say hi?
Speaking dog.
So here we go. There we go. There you go.
Sweet.
So any last thoughts for people about staying aware and not falling for other people's attempts? Because basically all of these are persuading you, manipulating you, steering you, trying to get you into a different frame of mind, state of mind, or allowing someone to have control over you. Do you have any other suggestions before we go? Like, this is been a good video, really nice.
Thank you. I think the biggest thing is to, this is coming from Eckhart Tolle, is the idea of to be able to step out of yourself and watch yourself. So if you find you're feeling sad, depressed, guilty, if you find you're experiencing emotions, feelings, thoughts that you don't like, that don't, help you go, wow, I feel like a happy human being. If you're like, ugh, it's almost as if you could float above yourself and look down and say, what's happening here? What
Totally.
just happened? Who did you just encounter? What did you just see on TV? What music did you just listen to? What did you just read? What did you just think about? Become more aware of what's going into your funnel, into the vortex, as Abraham would say. What did you just pour into your vortex? What's been going in there, and now it's materializing in your body, in your thoughts, even in your relationships. What was going in there? And it doesn't mean you poured it in there. It might be from your surroundings, from the city, from your job, from other people, and then create that filter.
Totally.
Say, okay, I'm going to build a filter against that particular person. I'm going to not absorb that person's energy, that person's stuff. I'm going to change the way I respond. I'm not going to react. I'm going to respond, and I'm going to choose how I respond emotionally and with my own thoughts. It's so easy, though. Our pattern as humans, I think, most people, is to see what's wrong instead of what's right.
Yes, and we have to do both. You have to see how did I get here, which could be what's
Right.
wrong, so that you can remove that
Yeah.
and make room for what's right. And this is a societal pattern. I like what you're saying. So basically, observe, don't absorb.
Yes,
And
observe and absorb if it's good. And
right.
be aware of your surroundings and your feelings and emotions,
Yeah.
and then start looking for connections as to what's happening. Something we were talking about, music. If you're listening to sad music, the tempo, the lyrics will influence your state of being.
Totally.
Sometimes, however, like we say, we need a release. Sometimes if you're feeling sad, that sad song will kind of absorb, give you a chance to pour that feeling out, have a nice
Yes.
cry, and then get past it. So
Yeah.
there's a space for everything, but
Totally.
don't stay stuck in the negative. Don't stay stuck in the sad or the anger. Give it time, and then say, all righty, okay, I'm tired of this. Time to move on.
Yes.
And
So
do it
if
in
people are dealing with the younger generations right now who are big on these concerts, if there's a lot of manipulation going on, it's okay to share this video with them so that they see how they're being manipulated. Quite often people they don't even realize they realize they don't remember part of a concert, but they don't really look further into it to see if there's something else at play. And we need all generations, like if the younger ones are getting hoodwinked or manipulated, it's okay to help them to understand this is how this happens. We didn't know when it was happening to us, and it was a gradual process over the last number of decades, but we're seeing it now. And now's the idea that we don't want this to happen anymore. We want to stay, as you call the observer, stay above it. Show me what's true. Come up with a few blanket statements for yourself. Show me what's true in a way I can handle it. I always love that one, so that you don't get truth bombed, right?
So
But just
he doesn't just stand. Here I am. I'm real. No, I didn't really mean I wanted to see you.
exactly, right. And there's so many funny stories we can tell about that kind of stuff too, especially when the metaphysicals presences are starting to show themselves a little more. But Desiree, I really appreciate this and you taking the time to explain to the viewers how this works. And again, it always comes down to the intention. If you have a pure heart, and that's to me what it always comes down to. Do you want the best for whoever you're working with? And the people that you surround yourself with. So for people watching this, if you like this video, please hit the like button and share it with people you know. And if there's any conversations you want Desiree and I to talk about and share more information on, you can put it in the comment box. Both of our information will be in the description box if you'd like to reach out and have any questions for us. But times are changing, definitely. And what I'm noticing is we're waking up faster than what we thought. There's new energy moon tonight. We're coming into the summer solstice, which is releasing and resetting. So there's great opportunities energetically for us right now. It's great to know these things, but also know where the traps are so we can keep our feet out of them and move forward the way we're meant to.
Yeah. And once again, it's all about awareness and self, empowerment.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right? Perfect. So thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.